I'm going to talk about retail arbitrage and give you a real quick overview on the process of retail arbitrage, what to expect, and what it involves. So, starting out, the first question you might have is what exactly is retail arbitrage? And the simple answer to that is simply going into a local retailer's physical store, buying products from their shelves, and then selling them, ideally for a profit, on Amazon. Pretty simple, right? And because of the simplicity of it and the low barrier to entry, it's one of the easiest ways to get started and find things that you can sell on Amazon. But it does come with a lot of challenges, especially nowadays, and it's certainly something that I would consider you look at as a temporary stopgap, especially if you're limited on funds, and a way to raise some sales in short order. So what you'll need in order to do retail arbitrage is a smartphone, which I think pretty much everyone has today, with a data plan, of course, because most stores don't have Wi-Fi. Some do, and it's spotty at best. And there's an app available on the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store called the Amazon Seller app. And what that does is link to your Amazon Seller account, which you've already registered for, which, by the way, of course, you'll need to do retail arbitrage. And it pulls data from Amazon's selling platform and gives you that data live on your app. So I'll explain how that works. First of all, you're going to go out and you're going to visit a local store, for example, Walmart. And once you're in that store, you're going to want to go around and start scanning products on the shelves, barcodes, using your smartphone and that Amazon Seller app, which you'll need to pop open on your phone. Now, as I mentioned in the previous screen, this Amazon Seller app is linked to your seller account and pulls live data from Amazon. So when you scan a barcode of an item in the store, it'll show you if that item's currently selling on Amazon. And by the way, if you're selling on multiple marketplaces, you can switch between different marketplaces right within the app. So if you wanted to see if it's selling on Amazon Canada, you would select Amazon.ca on the app. Or if you wanted to see it was selling on Amazon.com, you would switch to Amazon.com. And just be aware when you open the app to make sure which marketplace you're on so you're getting relevant data. And also, if you're selling internationally, say you're a Canadian selling in the US, you're going to need to take into account exchange rates, which adds an extra step that I'll cover as well. So basically, when you open up the app and scan an item, it's going to pull that data and let you know if it's selling on Amazon, how much it's currently selling for with the buy box price on Amazon, which is the buy now button on Amazon, and how many sellers there are on that listing. So when you sell products on Amazon, generic products or brand name products that are already listed, you share that listing with other sellers, and Amazon rotate the buy box between those sellers as long as you're priced competitively. And you want to be priced within 3% of the buy box price in order to be competitive. It'll also show you if Amazon are a seller of that item and what your expected profit would be at the current sale price on Amazon after Amazon's fees, shipping fees, and of course your cost when you buy it at your local store, say Walmart. Another important thing to note is it's also going to show you in the app whether or not you're restricted from selling that item. What you'll find is that many brands and certain categories require Amazon's permission in order to sell in them. And so if you buy something that you're restricted on, you won't be able to sell it into Amazon without applying for approval first. And I get into how to do that in the wholesale section of this course. So what's a strategy for going about retail arbitrage? And again, this is a very basic overview. If you want more in-depth on how this process works, I suggest you go further down and look at the online arbitrage section, because the strategy is really the same and it gets into all of the finer details there. But while you're in store, these are the things that you'll be doing. So you're going to start out ideally, go to the clearance sections or those end bins, or sometimes there's bins in the middle of the aisles, and start there. Those are typically, in a lot of cases, local sales that aren't available nationally, and you can find some really good items in there. When I started out, I found some filters for humidifiers that were on clearance at a local Western retailer called London Drugs. And they were selling these things for like $1 a piece. I scanned them and they were selling on Amazon. I don't remember the exact amount, but it was like $14 or $15 a pop. Okay, so you can find some real good bargains in those end and clearance sections. Another thing to keep in mind if you want to be really successful with retail arbitrage is to think globally. Okay, so if you're selling something on Amazon.com in the US, not only are you selling to American customers, but you have an option within there to set up international export where Amazon will sell your products to people all over the world. So it might be winter where you are presently, but somewhere else it's hot and sunny. So you could buy potentially summer supplies or pool supplies on clearance while there's 2 feet of snow on the ground in Canada where you're shopping, and sell that for a massive profit to someone in Florida, say, who has a demand for that item. That's called arbitrage. It's taking something that's in low demand and lower priced in one market and selling it in a market where it's in high demand. So you provide a valuable service as someone who engages in arbitrage because you're supplying products Amazon needs, and you're also helping retailers clear their shelves with products that they can't move locally and finding a market or a buyer in another area for that. So think globally. Also visit stores in different neighborhoods. So a Walmart in your neighborhood may have different local discounts and prices on certain items than one 20 miles or 20 kilometers down the road. So check out regional local stores and even some of the smaller stores that are looking to clear out their shelves, because you can find some different deals within different stores that aren't advertised nationally, and that's really where the gold lies sometimes. Speaking of national sales, before you head out to stores, what you might want to do is check flyers first. And you can do that either physically or online. Most retailers now publish their flyers online. So maybe make a buy list of potential items that you're going to go out and buy in the stores before you even leave, right? Some stores even allow you to check online. And again, if you go through the online arbitrage section, you can use all the software from the comfort of your home and then select to go and pick things up in store. And so you can have a buy list already set. So all you do is show up in store and pick up the things you've already purchased and done the research on without having to walk all around the store. But if you are in the store, the key here is to scan everything. Okay, so I said start out at the clearance sections and bargain bins, but don't limit yourself to those only. It's a time-consuming exercise, and believe me, some people love it and other people hate it. But you will find you'll start to get really good at this, and you'll know what to look for intuitively. And so when you're scanning items, you're going to find things with experience that intuitively you know could be potentially good sellers on Amazon. Now, a couple of rule of thumbs I have is when you're selling something or buying something that you're going to sell on Amazon Retail Arbitrage, you want to look at the packaging. It has to be in perfect condition. If there's any scuffs or damage to the packaging, skip it, because you can get your account suspended for selling something as new that looks like it's used on Amazon. The other thing I would steer clear of are electronics. You know, if you're selling something on Amazon as new, the warranty has to be transferable to the end buyer. And a lot of products that are electronics especially, that doesn't apply. Again, check if you're restricted to sell the item before you buy it. Although the good news is in most cases when you buy something retail arbitrage, if you realize that you've screwed up, often stores have a really good refund policy, and as long as it's not opened, you can return it for a refund. So that's always an added benefit. Another thing to keep in mind is if you find an item or maybe several items that are selling potentially for a great profit on Amazon, ask for a manager and ask if they'll give you an additional discount to take the entire lot. I've done this at Costco, where they had in British Columbia, where I live, a bunch of products that were winter products. There were grips for slipping over your shoes so you don't slip on the ice. And we had a really mild winter, and they weren't selling them. They kept lowering the price. I'd go in there weekly to buy groceries for the family and kept an eye out for these things. They kept lowering the price. Meanwhile, they were having an extreme cold snap back east in Canada and the US. So I asked a manager what's the best price he could give me if I was to take all of these boxes of items, and there's quite a few of them at that time. And he gave me an extra 10% off. So it doesn't hurt to ask, guys, because the worst they can do is say no, right? And that extra savings is profit in your pocket. So what to expect? Well, when you go into a store, don't expect to walk out of there on your first day and find hundreds or thousands of dollars in profits. That's probably not going to happen. You might get lucky, but the chances are you're not going to find anything. In fact, there are even seasoned people with experience that go out looking for products in store that come back empty-handed, and that can go on for days, weeks, sometimes even a month or more, okay? So it really depends on the deals in your area, how close you are, and how many stores you have accessible, and how far you're willing to drive, and how frequently you're willing to go out and look for products. So it's time-consuming. You're driving all over the place, you're searching for deals, you're walking around stores, you're putting stuff in your cart, you're unloading it in the car. When you get home, you've got to unpackage it, you've got to buy packing materials and boxes, print labels, drop it off at the post office, or schedule it for pickup. There's a lot involved, right? So it's time-consuming. And it can be hard to find profits. It may just be that there aren't any deals in your area, or you're restricted to sell a lot of the products that are profitable. Another thing you're going to run into is a lot of stores will take a product that's sold in many different retailers, but they have their own unique barcode and UPC code for that product. So when you scan it, it doesn't show up in the seller app. Now, some people kind of go around that and say, well, this looks exactly like a product on Amazon, but the UPC is different. That's against Amazon's terms and conditions and very risky strategy to do that. So if the barcode doesn't scan, pass up on it. There's plenty of products that have barcodes that do work on Amazon. Go for those. Don't try and break the rules or bend the rules, because Amazon are very unforgiving, and your Amazon journey could be over before you've even started. So follow Amazon's rules. That's a very important thing to keep in mind. And I've given you a list of those rules in the Getting Started section. So if you haven't had a chance to look through some of those, definitely do so. I know it's not fun understanding rules, but you'd be amazed how many people jump into this blind and end up having their selling privileges suspended permanently because they didn't follow the rules and went in without that knowledge. So you're a member of the Seller Academy. You've already taken that first step towards following a plan and getting the background you need before you jump into this. So I'm here to help you avoid that. Again, be aware in the app of restrictions. There's going to be certain categories and certain brands that you're not able to sell in as a new seller. And that's a big frustration I hear all the time from people who jump into selling on Amazon and say, I can't find anything, or all the good products are restricted for me. That's just a reality. The good news is, as you go out scanning, you'll find there are hundreds and hundreds of products that you are able to sell. And as you gain sales on Amazon and your account gains some history, in many cases, Amazon will automatically approve you when you apply for certain brands and categories. And the ones they don't, you can very easily get approval by following their instructions and buying from an authorized retailer, authorized distributor or wholesaler, and sending in invoices or getting a brand owner's letter of approval. Another frustration you're going to run into is you're going to find there are often limited quantities of items available. So what I mean is you might find something that's really profitable, but there's only 5 of them in that particular store. Or maybe they have a limit per customer. That's one of the frustrations with arbitrage in general, is it's a treasure hunt. And quite often, once the sale's done or the clearance is done, you can't find that product again. Now, on the flip side, there are people that find what are called replenishables, that they can go into a store every single day of the week and find the same products, the prices are consistent, and sell them on Amazon for a profit. And selling internationally, buying in Canada and selling in the US, for example, you can find some great deals that way, where there's products that just aren't readily available in the US, per se, or maybe Canadian-specific products, like ketchup chips is something I've heard people have done really well with in the past that they can't get in the U.S., or certain brands of those. And so people buy them here for inexpensive sale price or just regular price and sell them for a big profit down in the U.S. The other thing you're going to run into, not as much in Canada, although certain stores definitely do frown on it, but definitely in the U.S., Many retailers are against resellers. They don't want you buying their products to sell them on Amazon. And certainly I wouldn't bring that up and let them know you're doing that. It's really none of their business what you're doing with the products. And certainly don't volunteer that information, because that's probably going to get you barred from the store and they won't sell to you. And the reason they don't want you selling their products is their distributors don't allow resellers, and they're not allowed to sell them if they know that they're going to an unauthorized reseller. So just steer away from that and be aware of that. Now, here's an example, and this is quite a while ago when I used to do retail arbitrage myself. At that time, there was a mask, and Star Wars masks were doing really well on Amazon. Now you'll find Star Wars as a restricted brand as a new seller, but just use this as a simplistic example. I went out into a Walmart and I found this Kylo Ren mask. And I scanned the barcode, and it came up and showed me that the low price, which is the buy box price on Amazon in the US, was $32. Okay? So what I needed to do was figure out what my profit was going to be if I was to buy this item, which was selling for $10 in Walmart. If you look at the top left, you'll see it has a number 7,391 in toys. That's known as sales rank on Amazon, and the lower that number, the better it's selling. So on Amazon.com in the US, anything with a rank of 150,000 or less is a decent rank, meaning it'll sell fairly regularly. The fact this was 7,391 meant this was a pretty hot item. In Amazon Canada, ranks are less relevant, and you'll see in the online arbitrage section that I recommend using a site called Keepa or Camel, and that'll give you more information on how an item's historically been selling on Amazon. Ranks on .ca are going to be less forgiving. So while I said 150,000 in toys is a decent rank on Amazon.com, in Canada a rank of 10,000 is a decent rank because it's a much smaller marketplace. So something to keep in mind. So when I click on that $32 price on the mask, it brings up information in the seller app. So it shows me the current low price is $32. Now, when I'm selling via Amazon FBA, I only compare my price to other FBA sellers. I ignore the merchant fulfilled sellers. And the reason is people will typically buy, and the buy box typically goes to those prime customers, the customers that are doing fulfillment by Amazon. And clients are willing to pay more for that. Customers from Amazon are willing to pay more for that because they want that reliable 2-day delivery. So I only compare myself to FBA sellers on that listing. And in this case, let's just say there are 5 other people on the listing that I'm sharing that buy box with. So what I would do to figure out how many units per month I'm going to sell on that is I would take a rough estimate of the rank, which was 7,300, and say, okay, when I go back home, I'm going to look at that rank, or if I have access to a laptop in my car, I'm going to check out that rank and see how many times or how many units that's moving per month approximately. I would divide that by the number of competitive sellers with myself added to that list. So in my example, I said 5 plus me is 6. Divide the number of sales per month approximately by that number, and that's how many sales I could approximately expect to sell of that item per month. Now, the other thing is I don't want to be priced any more than 3% higher than the current low price on Amazon. And the other thing I don't want to do is go under the current low price. A lot of new sellers make the mistake of thinking, I'll just lower my price by $1 and sell it for $31 and get all the share of the buy box. But that doesn't work that way. What happens is we trigger a thing called a race to the bottom. And all the other sellers, sometimes using automated software to do it for them, start lowering their prices. And as they lower their prices, other sellers lower their prices. And before you know it, the item has no more profit left. So don't try and undercut prices. Match the lowest FBA seller's price, and don't go any more than 3% higher than their price if you want to be competitive. And be sure to include that in your pricing strategy. Now, in this case, you'll see that it's showing me a thing called fees with FBA, and those are the fees Amazon charged me to list and to ship my product to customers. So there's $10.76 in fees. I have to estimate what it's going to cost me to ship it to Amazon. Now, this is going to vary depending on your location and where you're sending stuff in, but in this example, I've used 50 cents a pound. When I click on the item, it actually brings up another screen that shows me the dimensions and the weight of the product. So in this case, this mask weighs 2.2 pounds. So my shipping fees, I estimated about 50 cents a pound, and that's what it would cost me to ship this into Amazon. If you buy more volume, that can drop a little bit, but on average for a small seller, 50 cents a pound is about right. And so if you take out the $32 sell price, less Amazon's fees, less the inbound shipping of $1.10, I'm left with a gross profit of about $10.14, right? So in this case, if I bought the mask for $10, I've essentially doubled my money. I've sold it for more than 3 times my purchase price, so that's more than 100% ROI. And I recommend starting out, because you're going to make mistakes and there's going to be hidden costs, only send in items that you can sell for a minimum of 2, the very minimum, to ideally 3 times or more of your purchase price. And try and focus on items that sell for at least $18. Anything under $18, Amazon have fixed fees, and as a percentage of your sale, that really eats into your profit. The other thing to keep in mind is the size of the item and the weight of the item. So I like to stick to items that are under 5 pounds and small enough that they'd fit in a shoebox. Anything larger than that, unless it's a very high profit item, is probably going to be quite costly for me to send in. So think about small and light wherever possible. And again, as a pro tip here, make sure that you're able to sell the item before you buy it. Check that restriction. If it says you're restricted on the app, don't buy it, okay? Don't fall into that trap. A lot of us have done that. That was a real quick overview of retail arbitrage. If you want more details on the meat of how to look for products and analyze profits, go to the online arbitrage section, because the same principles apply there.